Well, good morning and welcome to Ask Mason. This is a show that we try to answer all your questions or bring you information so that you know more about your city government, kind of what's going on. I'll remind you that you can always go to askmason@enid.org. Leave a question. We'll never use your name. We don't want to embarrass anybody, but any question that you might have, we'll be more than happy to try to answer that. This morning I'm excited, though. I have our newest commissioner with me, Mr. Frank Baker. Commissioner Baker, thank you for being here. I've known you for a long time, ever since, honestly, since I come to Enid. We kind of got to know each other, and I was excited when you decided to apply for Keith Saragusa the remainder of his term, even though it's a short amount of time. He took the undersheriff position up in Grant County and had been a great commissioner for us, but decided to move on, and we needed someone to fill that, and you stepped up and was selected to do that. So thank you very much. That term, by the way, and I know you know, but I'll tell the public, that runs until May the 5th, I believe.
Right,
and,
that's the date.
So thank you for doing that. I do appreciate that. I know it takes a lot of time. But then you went ahead and you stepped up again and filed for the seat. So talk about that just a little bit. I know it takes a lot of time. You're preaching to the choir whenever you say that. But yeah, and you're kind of a busy guy anyway.
A lot going on, and between my wife Carmen Ball is on the Autry Tech School Board, and going into this, before I found out I didn't have an opponent, between the two of us, we've been involved in about 6 elections. And a couple of times she has not drawn an opponent, but we've knocked doors for city commission, school board, state legislature, and part of me was going like, that's a lot of work. But at the same time, I have said to people, I think it almost should be a right of citizenship that you need to go get on the doors and talk to your fellow citizens, because it's very eye-opening. You think you kind of know the vibe of what people are thinking, and then you get out there and you find out it might be something. So I'm a little sad that I'm not going to have that opportunity, but I'm going to really keep my door open in terms of communicating with the Ward 3 folks. But the fact they don't have an election, since we've done 6 of them, I'm okay just going ahead and serving out my term now. Yeah,
you are absolutely right, though. I have learned more standing on the doorstep of somebody's house than I ever have sitting in a meeting or on a conference call.
And they're not, since you're on their home turf, they're not shy to crawl up your hind end if they need to. And it happens. And I think it's educational and eye-opening.
You know, Commissioner, I think probably one of the best things I ever did for my boys, because they wanted to help me campaign, we would talk about what my talking points were, and then the boys got to go out and knock on those doors also.
Oh, how about that?
So let me tell you, it causes you to have to think on your feet and answer some questions that you may not normally have even thought about. So you're absolutely right. But yes, this time no candidate running against you, so you will take over that full term starting May the 5th for a 4-year term. So I'm excited about that.
I did. I've already had, and I mean to have a conversation with 2 of the other people, but one of the gentlemen who applied for the Ward 3 seat, I've already talked to him and mentioned I want his feedback as we go along. I plan to mention that to the other 2 people who applied, and one gentleman who was planning to run for Ward 3, and then after we talked about where we were on the issues, he decided not to, and I said, well, we're going to have lunch in the next week or so. Because you need that. You can kind of get in an echo chamber where it's just city staff, city commission, and if you're not out having coffee with people, you just got to do that and keep the lines of communication open.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This isn't your first time to be a city commissioner, right?
Yeah.
What years were you on the commission prior?
And I could be off. I believe it was 93 to 97, served under Mayor Norman Gray and Mike Cooper.
Okay.
And we had, like you guys have had in the past, we had a couple of portions of my term, which I will call dust-ups within the community. And that just happens. And I mean, the folks have got the right, if they're upset about something, they got the right to come talk to you. And you've had that, I've had that. So I'm just aware that sometimes this is going to happen, and quite often you don't see it coming. You know?
Talk just a little bit about, because I've heard Commissioner Stallings talk. He was a commissioner.
Just before me.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And I think it went even back into the 80s, if I remember correctly. I think he went through the oil bust and some challenges, and he and I have talked about that, but the difficulties and how it was different serving then than it is now. And I know you haven't been in this very long yet, but are you able to draw any differences in what you've seen, the way business was done back then, maybe versus now, or
well, I think
issues that we face? I mean,
one thing that occurs to me, and I was talking with one of the former mayors I served with, and mentioned the fact, and kudos to all the people involved with city government over the last 20, 25 years. We're in a much better financial footing than we were back in the 80s and 90s. I mean, it was kind of like you were looking at that fund balance, and it was, at times, it was a little unsettling, you know, the lack of funds we had. And so it's good to see that. I think there was a lot of kind of east side, west side resentment back in the day, which I think that's declined a little bit. I think we've done a better job of being inclusive, you know, and not going like, you know, if you're east of 4th Street, good luck.
Right.
I felt a lot of people felt that was the way city government operated. I don't think that was true back then, but I do think there's more of a, we are Enid and we're working together, and so I like that. But in large measure, it's just the one thing I've always told people, and this goes back to Jim Ferree and Bryce Kennedy and folks, and Carol Lehman was serving back when I was there. We have good people with the city of Enid. Had them back then, we've got them again today, and I admire their dedication and just the quality of folks we have serving us in city government.
I completely agree, and thanks for pointing that out. I get to sit in a lot of meetings, lengthy meetings with some of these folks, and just their concern about the general public. You know, because there are a lot of easy fixes to some things that might or could actually do harm to other people. They choose never to do that. They will work and work to find solutions. And I just think that speaks to the quality of people that we have in all levels of our city government right now.
And one other thing, let me mention that, because I think it's such an important part of getting the pulse of the community. And I don't know if this is flowers for Gerald Gilbert or who, but it seems like today, when I look at the level of community involvement of the people involved with city government, it's greater than it was, say, 20, 25 years ago. You know, you see a Scott Morris everywhere. There's a gal who works for the city who I see at every run I do. It's just, I don't know, I think that folks with the city are even more connected with the community than maybe they were back in the day. And I admire that.
I agree. Yeah. Completely agree. Commissioner, I wanted to ask you, I sit here and I think about all the different projects that we have going on in the city of Enid. So much so that when I get asked to go speak about what's going on in Enid, I have to sit down and limit that, because we have so much stuff going on that you could not possibly get through all those. Talking to our city engineers the other day, I think they have 150 different projects on the board right now of either in process or on the drawing board. Now, this could just be an intersection, or it could be, but it's projects that are going on that you and I get to help make a decision on. How do you get up to speed on some of that stuff?
You've got to do your homework. One thing that was incredibly vital for me, I served on a couple of committees that aren't there anymore, the Call Lake Sales Tax Oversight Committee and Police and Fire Sales Tax Oversight Committee. And I kind of wanted to keep my hand in back then, just a few years back, just more of a citizen. Because if you don't sit in on that, when we came in, you know, the first meeting I had and we were talking about the trash rates, and I was looking at all that, I said, I should have done more homework before I swore myself in and stepped up there. You swore me in, rather. And I went, damn, I'm undereducated. So it's one of those things. It's a big learning curve, and I thought I was paying attention, and then now that we've been into a few things, I'm going like, I wasn't paying enough attention. So I need to do more homework.
Yeah.
It's tough. But like the Call Lake thing, that was very helpful to listen to all the problems and issues of, acquiring the property and the like. And then police and fire, just being down in the trenches with the police chief and fire chief and talking what needed to be done and how expensive the darned equipment is now.
Yeah.
But it's tough. You have to just apply yourself and bone up, particularly as you get ready for the budgetary process,
which will be coming up very soon.
Yeah.
I know. One of the comments that I get a lot, and I know you probably have in the past and will in the future, but talking about the study portion of this and how much homework you have to do, I get asked all the time, how do y'all go through that meeting so quickly and not even discuss all those things that you're voting on? A lot of people don't realize that we're given that data a week before, or sometimes even more than that, if we have to have meetings prior to that. And then we also get the staff calls it background, all the information that led up to whatever we're voting on. So a lot of times, I'll never forget whenever I was appointed Ward 6 Commissioner, kind of like you were, to finish out a term for, at that time, Mayor Pinkerton. We spent about 10 minutes and voted on a $160 million budget. And the next day I got a question, how could y'all spend that much money? But had been working on that for weeks and weeks and weeks prior to that. So talk just a little bit about how much study does go on behind the scenes.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because I had a friend who follows City Commission casually. And after I got the appointment, he said, well, I'll have to clean up his language because he's an ex-veteran like I am, and we tend to put in words we shouldn't. But he said, I hope you'll get on there and not vote like the rest of those blankety-blank zombies who obviously put no thought in that. They just vote 7-0. And we had about a 10-minute conversation. I said, dude, you have no idea how much information. Usually they've had like an hour study session prior to that meeting where the dumb butt questions get asked if you're not up to speed on something, which I've already had to ask a few of those. But he's a person who I thought was pretty well educated, but he just thought you people are just voting 7-0 willy-nilly and you should pay more attention. Well, attention is being paid, the way the process works.
Yes.
I don't think people understand that, but he thought we're all zombie robots up there, and we're not. We're not that.
Just there's a lot more time spent behind the scenes than there are at the commission meeting.
It's almost, my wife and I do a lot of stuff at the Gaslight Theater, and I compare it to that. I said, you see the performance, but you got no idea how much work went behind the scenes from like all these different directions to make everything on stage look kind of flawless, or a city commission meeting pop right along and get stuff done.
Yeah. So I think that's important that the public know that, that we are spending a lot of time on those topics. The other thing I wanted to mention and kind of get your feedback on, one of my big rubs that I have is that sometimes I think the general public gets kind of wrapped up in what I call the moment, the latest thing that's going on. As a commissioner, I found that you have to have a vision about what you want Enid to look like, be like, and stand for. And each commissioner that comes in, I usually take them to lunch, and I sit down and I have a conversation. All the small things are important.
Oh, sure.
But you have to think farther than just today. I tell everyone today's already here. Not a whole lot we can do about that. But as a commissioner, you have to start thinking about a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. The Call Water Project, I was thinking about that the other day as I'm putting the State of the City address together. $342 million project. We normally spend about, on average, I look back, about $12 million a year on capital improvements. If you take $342 million and divide that by 12 million, that one project is as large as if you were to combine every capital improvement project for 28 years together.
Oh my.
So the reason we talk about Call Lake so much is because it's a project that we're doing so it'll bring water for the next 50, 60, 70 years from now. So talk just a little bit about, what do you see for Enid, not today, a year from now, 5 years, 10 years from now? And I know that's a big open-ended question.
I'm like my dad. I'm a cockeyed optimist by nature. I always think I think it drives my wife crazy sometimes, but I always think things are going to be fine. But one thing I love about Enid is I think we're as a kid growing up here, being raised on a farm up by Kremlin, we were a white bread community. And now, as I look out and I see Enid, we look more like America. I just think there's a broader range of folks and ethnicities, good people, and I'm excited about where we're headed because I feel like we've got so many different voices coming from a lot of different directions, and many of them very passionate. But then the other thing that I felt like we didn't have back in the 90s, there is this entire generation of younger leadership that I didn't feel. Coming out of the oil bust and into the 90s, I thought there were so many people in their 20s and 30s who departed Enid. Well, there's now a whole sea of those, I almost call them kids and shouldn't do that, but a whole sea of those folks who are back and involved on boards, see them on city committees. They appear before us with Main Street and Leonardo's. And I'm just going like, man, our future is rock solid with the next couple of generations of leadership.
Yes.
And so I think we're headed for good times because these younger folks are paying more attention to what's going on. They're more in the loop, whether it's Leadership Greater Enid or some of these other organizations. And so I just think as long as we can keep bringing, those folks into the pipeline through business, government, the nonprofit world, I think we're in rock solid shape because I can see people that she's going to be a mayor someday. He's probably going to end up running that business in another 10. And I think we're sitting pretty, to be totally candid, because I think if we don't have that younger demographic coming up to fill in the slots, that's how a community dies. And we're not in danger of that.
No, not at all. I get to sit and chair a lot of boards that these younger folks are on.
Yes, sir.
They don't just take no for an answer. They ask why. Why are we not doing that? Why can we not? And I love that about them. So, yes, I love that. I love that that's part of your vision, that we empower other people.
Yes.
And, well, Commissioner, I am looking forward to serving with you. I'm excited about the group that we're going to have. I just think that I tell everybody we're the eighth largest community in the state of Oklahoma, population-wise. We will go over $1 billion in dollars that come through the city of Enid, which put us at number 11. We're currently number 11, but when we go over that $1 billion mark, that's out of 521 communities in the state of Oklahoma. Enid is a place that is literally on the move, and I'm excited about what we can do. And I just want to make sure we always have commissioners that ask us questions. Why can't we do this? Why can't we think larger? Why can't we do more? Because we can.
Yeah, we can.
I always hear Gerald Gilbert say, we can do more than one thing at one time. And, he's exactly right. We can do multiple projects, and that's what we're doing right now. So I look forward to serving with you. I think it's going to be fun. And I'm glad you're going to be on the commission for the next 4.5 years.
I think it's going to be great. Like I said, I believe, Courtney Dennis, who I've known forever, she's going to be good. Getting to know the other folks. Of course, I've known Rob Stalling since, creation. It's going to be a good group, and I think you're exactly right. I think the vibe is so positive and forward-looking. I think we're in for a really exciting, good stretch locally, statewide, nationally. I'm excited about the future.
You and me both. Well, thank you for being here today.
Sir.
I appreciate it. Before we go, I do want to remind everybody to make sure you reach out, and they'll put the graphic up. But we've got the State of the City address. It'll be on February the 7th at 11:30 down at the Stride Bank Center. That's open to everybody that wants to come. There is limited seating. There will only be about room for about 300 people, but it's a free meal. You get to see what's going on in the city, what our vision is, and I encourage everyone to show up for that. So reach out, get your table, your seat, bring your employees with you. I look forward to that. And then lastly, don't forget, if you have any questions, ask Mason at enid.org, and I will do my best to answer that. If I don't know the answer, I can certainly find somebody that knows. Thank you, and have a great week.